I spend a lot of time thinking about the parts of our games we don't plan for. The moments that just happen. The ones where the players see a design in the static that we never intended to put there. And suddenly, they're the ones drawing the map.
We've all been there. You're in the flow, you're painting a picture with words, setting a scene, and then the chatter just stops. A certain kind of silence falls over the table. The air changes. And you just know that some stray detail you threw in has hooked them in a way you never saw coming.
It's a powerful feeling. But man, it can be a little terrifying too. All I did was add a little bit of flavor, some texture to make the world feel real. And now that one tiny thing has become the absolute center of their universe.
And welcome to The Dungeon Master's Apprentice. This channel is about RPG design, consequences, and why games actually work at the table.
I remember running a game where I was describing the approach to a city. To give it an ancient feel, I said, "You see several tall, black men here standing silent in the fields outside the walls. In my head, they were just big old rocks. Scenery."
Well, to my players, they weren't rocks. Not at all. They were ancient sentinels, some kind of warning. They were absolutely convinced the stones were an old magical defense system, or maybe guardians in a deep slumber. They spent the next hour trying to talk to them, and when nothing happened, it just made them more certain they were onto something huge.
And in that moment, sitting there behind my screen, it hit me just how big the gap is between the world I think I'm describing and the one they're actually seeing. We're looking at the same thing, but we're seeing two completely different worlds.
There's a name for this, actually. Apophenia. It's just this thing our brains do. We're wired to find patterns, to connect the dots even when there are no dots to connect. And at a gaming table, that instinct is dialed up to 11. Players are literally trained to believe that everything you say has a hidden meaning.
And that's the heart of it, right? I say flower prices have tripled because it makes the city feel gritty and real. They hear it and immediately think, okay, a conspiracy is starving the city for profit. When I think I'm adding flavor, they see a clue. What I see as a simple oddity, they see as a deep mystery. From their side of the table, nothing is ever random.
So when that happens, when they grab onto one of these threads that I never meant to be a thread at all, my first impulse is always the same. I just want to get them back on the right path.
I can feel this voice in the back of my head starting to panic. No, guys, these stones are just rocks. The flower price doesn't matter. The real adventure is over here. I get this overwhelming urge to correct them, to steer them back to my prepared notes.
But I've learned from experience what happens when I give in to that urge. When I step in and say, nope, that's not it, I'm not just giving them new information. I'm letting all the air out of the room. You can physically feel the energy just drain from the table. Their exciting theory, that spark of discovery, it just vanishes.
So that leaves us with the choice. It's a crossroads I feel like I'm standing at all the time behind the screen. Do I correct them to preserve the story I intended to tell? Or is there another option?
The other option is to just stay quiet, to listen, to let their curiosity take the lead for a while. And maybe, just maybe, to quietly make their story the real one. I had another game where my prep notes for a street scene had just one tiny detail. A single, abandoned child's shoe in the gutter. That was it. Just a little piece of grit to make the city feel a bit sad and lived in. My players found that shoe, and the whole session came to a halt. They spent the next 20 minutes building this incredible theory that a child was being methodically erased from existence by some powerful magic, and the shoe was the one piece of them the magic couldn't unmake. It was a wild idea, and honestly, it was way better than anything I had planned for that night.
So, in that moment, I made a choice. I didn't say a thing. I just picked up my pencil and made a new note behind the screen. The players were now right. That shoe was the last remnant of someone erased from time. Their theory was now the truth.
If you want more personal thoughts on RPG design and consequences, especially the ideas that don't always fit into a video, I write a short newsletter between uploads. There's a link in the description if you want that. What happened after that was pretty amazing. The whole focus of the game shifted. It wasn't about them following my breadcrumbs anymore. It was about them proving this incredible theory that they had built all by themselves. The payoff came a few sessions later, when they finally uncovered the proof. The look on my player's face, he just slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "I knew it!" He felt like he'd solved it. Not that I had given him the answer, but that he had seen the truth when no one else did.
And really, that's the whole magic trick. When you lean into their ideas, what could have been their misunderstanding becomes their moment of incredible insight. They feel clever. They feel like they're a part of building the world, because they are.
Working this way means I have to change how I think about my own prep. It means I have to hold on to my own story, my own plot points, a lot more loosely than I used to.
The story stops being something I deliver to them. It becomes something we discover together, something that's negotiated right there at the table, shaped by what they see and what they believe.
In the end, I really believe this is it. A player will always remember the twist they saw coming, the connection they forged themselves. When we learn to listen to their wild theories and quietly weave them into the fabric of the world, we're not losing control of the story. We're giving them something far more valuable, the profound satisfaction of discovery. And that feeling? That's worth more than any story I could ever write on my own. And until next time, adventure on.